All right, this is going to be titled More Information About CMU Prisons, or the CMUs, the Federal Prison Systems Experiment in Social Isolation. Look, this is crazy, man. They put these little articles out like several years ago. This one is 2010, but, people are living their lives, they're going to work, paying the bills, and I guess these things just exist in our midst, and they just expect us to tolerate it. Once we find out about it, 5-6 years later, I'm not tolerating it, man. I don't think we should tolerate this. This ruins any accountability from the Bureau of Prisons. They can do whatever they want to do behind closed doors. And Schaeffer talks about torturous experiences. But let me read this article. If you don't want to hear me read it, I'll put the link and you can go to it directly and read it yourself. But if you're driving down the road and you just would like the article read to you, that's what I'm going to do. It's the Center for Constitutional Rights. It's CMUs, the Federal Prison Systems Experiment in Social Isolation, dated March 31st, 2010. What is a Communications Management Unit, CMU? In 2006-2008, the Federal Bureau of Prisons secretly created the Communications Management Unit Prison. Units designed to isolate and segregate certain prisoners in the federal prison system from the rest of the BOP population. Currently, there are two CMUs, one located in Terre Haute, Indiana, and the other in Marion, Illinois, which is where Schaeffer was, I believe. The CMUs house between 60 and 70 prisoners in total, and over two-thirds of the CMU population is Muslim, even though Muslims represent only 6% of the general federal prison population. Unlike BOP prisoners, individuals detained in the CMUs are completely banned from any physical contact with visiting family members and friends. Other types of communication are also severely limited, including interactions with other prisoners and phone calls with friends and family members. Individuals detained in the CMUs receive no meaningful explanation for their transfer to the unit or for the extraordinary communications restrictions to which they are subjected. Upon designation to the unit, there is no meaningful review or appeal process that allows CMU prisoners to be transferred back to general population. Many CMU prisoners have neither significant disciplinary records nor communications-related infractions. However, bias, political scapegoating, religious profiling, and racism keep them locked inside these special units. The Bureau's purpose and process for designating federal prisoners to the CMUs remains undisclosed to the public. Who is detained in the CMU? The Bureau claims that CMUs are designed to hold dangerous terrorists and other high-risk inmates, requiring heightened monitoring of their external and internal communications. Many prisoners, however, are sent to these isolation units for their constitutionally protected religious beliefs, unpopular political views, or in retaliation for challenging poor treatment or other rights violations in the federal prison system. At the Marion CMU, 72% of the population is Muslim, 1,200% higher than the national average of Muslim prisoners in federal prison facilities. The Terre Haute CMU population is approximately two-thirds Muslim, an over-representation of 1,000%. The Muslims detained in these two CMUs are both African American, many who converted during the time in the prison system, and prisoners of Middle Eastern descent. CMUs also house individuals with unpopular political views, such as environmental activists. Many of these prisoners were brought to the CMU as calculated means to integrate the units after critical press attention to the targeting of Muslims. Also commonly detained in the CMU are prisoners who have been active in organizing prisoners' rights, participated in lawful social justice movements, organized worship sessions, or filed grievances based on mistreatment and/or conditions of confinement. Although the Bureau maintains there are broad guidelines determining who is eligible to be sent to these isolation units, thousands of prisoners in the general population fit the criteria, begging the question, why these men? The CMU, an experiment in social isolation. Unlike other prisoners in the BOP, CMU prisoners are forbidden from any physical contact with their children, spouses, family members, and other loved ones that visit them. They are not even allowed a brief embrace upon greeting or saying goodbye. While the BOP claims these units were created to more effectively monitor communications, there is no security explanation for banning physical contact during visits, as visitors are comprehensively searched before visits, and prisoners are strip searched before and after visits. The ban on physical contact during visits contradicts the Bureau's own policy, recognizing the critical importance of visitation and rehabilitation and prison reentry. The CMU's visitation policy is even more restrictive than that of the BOP's notorious Supermax prisons, where prisoners have over 4 times more time allotted for visits than prisoners in the CMU. The Bureau has placed severe restrictions on phone access. As with visits, the Bureau has recognized the importance of telephone communications with family and loved ones in the rehabilitation process, as well as maintaining family relationships during incarceration. In spite of this, CMU prisoners were until recently permitted only one 15-minute phone call a week. When in apparent response to threatened litigation, the Bureau permitted one extra 15-minute phone call a week. I think Schaeffer said he didn't get any. Other BOP prisoners receive 300 minutes a month for phone calls. Prisoners in the isolation units are barred even from contact with other prisoners in the general population. In addition to the stigma of being placed in what is widely known as the terrorist unit, individuals detained in the CMU have limited access to educational and other opportunities, including programs that facilitate reintegration and employment efforts upon their release. Why hasn't Sarah Palin talked about this? She's from Alaska, right? She's supposedly known Schaeffer Cox. She's okay with him being sent to a terrorist unit in a secret CIA prison? Secrecy, transparency, and accountability in the federal prison system. These isolation units have been shrouded in secrecy since their inception. CMUs were created without public knowledge and without the opportunity for the public to comment as required by law. In 2010, the BOP attempted to redress this violation by 3 years after the fact, finally disclosing CMU policy for public comment. Furthermore, individuals are designated to CMUs with no explanation and without a way to seek return to the general population, a due process violation that allows for abuse of power, retaliation, and racial and religious profiling. Guantanamo North, Inside Secretive U.S. Prisons. That's a multimedia interactive CMU history timeline. NPR's Margot Williams and Alicia Cypress have created an interactive timeline of the history of CMUs. What is ARAF versus Holder? ARAF et al. Versus Holder is a federal lawsuit challenging the policies and conditions at the 2 CMUs, as well as circumstances under which they were established. The Center for Constitutional Rights filed the case in the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia in March 2010 on behalf of several plaintiffs, including prisoners and their family members. The defendants in the lawsuit, including Attorney General Eric Holder, Harley Lappin, Director of BOP, D. Scott Dodrell, Assistant Director of Correctional Programs Division of the BOP, Leslie Smith, Head of the Counterterrorism Unit of the Federal BOP. In November 2012, CCR amended its complaint to bring new retaliation claims based on previously secret documents. These documents gathered through litigation revealed that the BOP assigned CCR's clients to the CMUs based on their constitutionally protected political activism and speech. Okay, I'll put the link in the information bar. What the heck is going on? Did you guys know about the CMU before I started talking about it? You know, I'm sure some of you did, but this needs to be front page news, man. This got to, we got to expose these evil secret CIA prisons where they torture people like Schaeffer Cox, who's guilty of nothing but professing the Lord Jesus Christ and talking about Second Amendment and the Federal Reserve and our Constitution. It's insane what's going on, man. Absolutely insane.